Hey guys, how you doing? Well, I'm doing okay. Um, Hi Callie. Um, Unfortunately, the dentures did not stay in. Um, the dentist reported, I learned this from a social worker, that when he put them in, they seemed a little loose. So they're going to see about having them refitted. So I tried eating with them, but they just kept coming out. So they're in the little cup, and so I'm back to being the Toothless Wonder. But that's okay. I don't mind the title, you know. So anyway, I'd like to continue what I was talking about yesterday, and now I wanted to further on about. First, I want to get out of the way here. What I was talking about, that liberals talking about compassion, but they don't do anything in the name of compassion. And it made me think of AOC after her visit at the border facility, that she was complaining about the conditions there. Now, if she did her job that she was elected to do, okay, she would realize that she is in charge of rectifying that condition or that situation. That's what you were elected for. That's what you were voted in for. Okay, you, AOC, are a lawmaker. That's what members of Congress are. Lawmakers. That they come up with proposals that could become law. Okay, and since this is a country rule of law, then you would know as a member of Congress that once a legislation, once an idea has been voted on, then it then goes to the Hey guys.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Because we could always take you both and come back and get your car later.
Well, I've been waiting for somebody to come out. I was waiting for the ambulance to come out with the person they were picking up. So, and I had a feeling they would while I was filming this video, which is okay, I guess. I don't mind that. Sorry that you guys didn't get a chance to see it. But anyway, so AOC, guess what?
Thank you.
Guess what, AOC? You are in the best place to do something that you're complaining about. Okay? And instead of complaining and trying to pass your Green New Deal or whatever the hell you try to do, okay, instead of coming up with ideas that can become law, okay, you're in the best position to be in. And for you to complain about the conditions down in the facility, you have control over that. You have control over that, AOC. You're in the best position to do something about it because, as a member of Congress, you are a lawmaker. Okay, you were there. You can take that information, come back to Washington, go back into the House, I guess, right, and say, this is what I saw down there. Let's come up with an idea on how to fix this because it's unacceptable. So you use your brain that God gave you and come up with an idea that can become law of the land. Okay, and then what you're upset about, they can resolve it. And then guess what? You won't be upset anymore. Then whatever you were upset about is resolved and dealt with. And then you won't be upset anymore. Unless you enjoy being upset and complaining. And when you are bitching about the condition down there, just exactly who was your audience? Who were you bitching to? Okay, for the sake of arguing and complaining? You're a lawmaker, for crying out loud. You are in the best place to do something. But you see, this is why liberal compassion is a lie. Because the compassion that liberals and Democrats voice so much to make us believe that they got compassion. But they just say, oh, we're compassionate, we have compassion. You want to do something to show that compassion? No. I just want to talk about it so you know I'm compassionate. But doing something? Hell no. And that's why the other side, Republicans and Wayfair, they're the ones who are the true compassion. Trump and Wayfair and everybody else who is on the other side of the aisle, we know they got compassion because by their actions, by what they're doing out of compassion. And then when they try to do something out of compassion, then the Democrats say, no, don't do that. Because if you do that, then you rob us an example that we cite that shows that we're compassionate. Because those are the only issues that we voice. Okay, so otherwise, there's no redeeming quality about us. We have no redeeming quality except the illusion of being compassionate. And as long as there's something to show compassion about, then they have something to bank on and hang their hat on. And say, look at me, I have compassion, and because I care about this, and this, because of the conditions of the situation of this, and this. 3 areas that we will talk till we're blue in the face about. Because as long as we have these, then we have something to tell people or prove to people how compassionate we are by our talking about it and our caring. But if something's done, okay, then they got nothing. Then there's no argument. There's nothing. Excuse me. Then their talking points are no longer relevant because what they were passionate about or compassionate about was resolved. And then, but they did nothing. Now, AOC could have done something. If she was that bothered, she would hightail it back to Washington and say, damn it, I'm going to write up a legislation. Because I saw it with my own eyes, so I know exactly how to word it, how to present it, and get more people on board. And then we could take a vote on our idea on fixing the problem. Because that's what our job is. Our job is making laws. And the laws we make are for the good of the country. But she don't want to do that. She just want to bitch and complain. But if somebody wants to do something about it, they tell them, stop. Don't do it. Because if you do something, that robs us a argument that we can hang our hat on to brag that we are compassionate. Now, so anytime you hear any liberals or Democrats talking about being compassionate, you know it is a lie. It is a flat out lie. Because if they really were compassionate, they would do something about it. And when somebody else, whether it's Trump or whether it's Wayfair, wants to do something out of compassion, then you should not tell them, no, don't do it. The Wayfair employees walked off the job in protest to say, we object to you helping the people down there. And Pelosi telling Trump, don't spend any money down there. Okay? Because if they really were people of compassion, they would welcome that. They would say, I'm so glad that the company I work for wants to donate beds and blankets, because that's a good company to work for, and I'm proud to work for Wayfair, big employee of Wayfair. That Wayfair is a wonderful company because of the compassionate way they want to donate beds, blankets, and toiletries down there. But that's not what they did.
Did you drop something?
They protested. They protested by walking off the job, saying, we object to you helping them down there. Now, that doesn't sound like they got compassion, that the company has more compassion than the employees do. Okay? And the same thing with Nancy Pelosi. If Nancy Pelosi was really that caring and worried and concerned about the conditions down there, then she would have had no objections to Trump, and even so, they would have approved, okay, money for the migrants down there. But time after time, President Trump tried to get Congress, tried to get Pelosi, excuse me, to come up with ways to improve the situation down there. And she said no every time. She said, if anything you come up with, Mr. President, is dead on arrival. We want to complain about the conditions down there. So you know, when they talk about compassion, it's a lie. Because she would recognize compassion, and she would recognize what Trump is trying to do, and she would be in support of it. But because she objects to it, that means that she is lying each and every time she opens her mouth in regard to the people down there at the border. Okay, now that finishes that issue that I'm going to talk about. Next, I heard an actor on TV talk about how he's afraid to come out of the closet. Yeah, would you believe it? In this day and age, there are people who are afraid to come out of the closet and be themselves. Now, who do you think that is? I'm not talking about the specific actor, but what do you think they're afraid to come out of the closet about? I'll let you think about that for a minute. Do you think it's out of sexual orientation? That this person is scared to come out of the closet because he's gay or bi? You'd think so, wouldn't you? Because that's what we always heard. Somebody afraid to come out of the closet and that people know what they are. Well, if you think that this actor is afraid to come out of the closet because of his sexual orientation, you'd be wrong. He's afraid to come out of the closet because he is a conservative, a Republican, who voted for Trump. So, now we have a continuation of Americans afraid to come out of the closet. We thought that there weren't anybody in the closet anymore because so many people came out of the closet. And now that closet is filled again. That closet is filled again with Americans who are afraid to come out of the closet. And it has nothing to do with sexual orientation. It has to do with the president they voted for. So, it looks like we're going to still hear about people afraid to come out of the closet. We're still going to hear that. So I guess that part of Americana, that a part of American life where people are afraid to come out of the closet, sadly it's going to continue. And you know, the left, the Democrats, they're supposed to be tolerant, inclusive, but they're not. That's a lie also. Because if the left, Democrats, and liberals were really, truly tolerant and inclusive, they would accept many, many millions of Americans. Like I said before in the last video, that Democrats hate Republicans. And they hate Republicans and conservatives so much that now they're saying, we don't want to work with you. We don't want you to have a business. We don't want our kids playing with your kids. Because you voted for Trump. So we want your business to fail. We want your kids away from our kids. This is not America. That's not how Americans behave toward their fellow Americans. Now, I'm going to talk about something else now. Now, for the past few years, we have been hearing Democrats and liberals blaming everything on President Trump. And that well, let's put it this way. That is not basically the way we're supposed to think. Now, I have told you about the rabbi's interpretation of the Garden of Eden story, and what billions of Jews, millions and millions of Jews, we embrace as we look upon humanity, society, and the community. Okay. Now, to sort of put two and two together here, I'll remind you, I'll repeat the rabbi's interpretation of the Garden of Eden story and apply it to liberals and Democrats blaming Trump for everything. Okay. Now, this is the rabbi's interpretation. Okay. First of all, there were two trees in the Garden of Eden. There was the tree of life. There's the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Okay. Now, God told the man not to eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And God brings the woman to him. Now, the woman tells the man to eat of the tree. First of all, the man tells the woman that God instructed him not to eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. The woman, on the other hand, she takes it upon herself to take a fruit and give to the man, and said, nothing's going to happen to you. So the man eats from that fruit, and then all of a sudden, the clothing of commandment that he was given has now been taken off of him. Now he's naked because he did wrong. So nakedness is a metaphor, because any time you do something wrong, you feel naked. You feel naked because you know you did wrong. And now you're going to be paranoid. Can anybody tell? Does anybody know that you did wrong? And so now anything's going to make you jump. You see the police behind you and you panic and freak out. Oh my God, they found out. That's nakedness. So it's a metaphor of nakedness. Okay. Now, he hides. And God looks for him. Where are you? And it's not a question of geographical, like what rock or tree are you hiding behind? Because God knows. God knows where you are physically, geographically. So the question is not really literally, where are you? It's, who are you now? Now that you did wrong and you know you did wrong. So the man says, here I am. And God says, why were you hiding? He said, because I was naked. And God says, how do you know this? Did you eat from the tree that you were told not to eat from? Now, what did the man say? What should he have said? The man should have said, yes, God, you are right. I ate from the tree. You told me not to eat from the tree, and I did. I am so sorry. How could I make it up to you? But he doesn't do that. He passes the buck. He puts the blame elsewhere. He says, the woman made me do it. And not only did the woman make me do it, you, God, are at fault because you gave her to me. So, God, it's your fault that I ate from the tree because you gave me the woman. So, the sin, according to the rabbis, is not disobeying God. The sin was not taking responsibility for what you do wrong and blaming something or someone else for your moral failings. So he passes the buck. He blames the woman. So God goes to the woman and asks, what did you do? What did you do? The woman should have answered, I'm sorry, God. The man told me that we were not supposed to eat from that tree. And I did, and I am so sorry. How could I make it up to you? But she doesn't do that. Instead, she passes the buck onto the serpent. Saying, the serpent made me do it. So she doesn't take responsibility for what she did either. She blamed the serpent. Now, according to the rabbis, the man and the woman were removed from the garden, so because not from disobeying God, but because they failed to take responsibility for doing wrong, and instead blamed someone or something else wrong. The reason. But according to Torah text, at the end of chapter 3 of Genesis, it clearly states why they were exiled from the garden. It says, lest the man and the woman eat from the tree of life and live forever. Therefore, the man and the woman were removed from the garden to till the soil. Therefore is a very important word, because what comes before therefore and what comes after therefore, they are connected. So, because there was the possibility that they would eat from the tree of life also, so it becomes clear that it was the tree of life that God did not want man and woman to eat from. It wasn't the tree of knowledge of good and evil, because he suspected. So why did God ask them, what did they do? Doesn't God know what they did? Of course. God is God. So God knows why they did it. But God asked because God wanted to know how they would answer the question. Would they take responsibility for their own actions? Or would they lay the blame elsewhere? And blaming elsewhere for their own actions is exactly what they did. They failed to take responsibility. So God knew the answer before God asked. So it was how they were going to respond was the reason that God asked the question. Because that is what being a decent human being is all about. Always taking responsibility for when you do wrong. So perfection, according to the Jewish tradition, this is my understanding of it. Somebody else might have a different one. But according to what I believe, perfection is not never doing wrong. Perfection is never blaming someone else or something else for what you do wrong. Perfection is always taking responsibility, without exception. Never failing to take responsibility. Never, ever, ever failing to take responsibility for what you do wrong. That is perfection. They're vacuuming. Well, I've never been out here this early in the day, so I never knew. So now, let's take that Garden of Eden story and apply it to Donald Trump and the liberals, the Democrats. Now, the Democrats and liberals are blaming Trump for everything, for the hurricanes, for the devastation in Texas, Harvey, a year or so ago. Trump is blamed for this, blamed for that. Projecting. It's always Trump's fault. But Trump had nothing to do with it. So here we have a community of Democrats, a society of Democrats, never taking responsibility for their own actions, even if they had nothing to do with what happened. So they're blaming Trump for things that nobody would be blamed for, right? The devastation in Puerto Rico 2 years ago, the devastation that hit the Bahamas this month. Trump is to blame. See, that's part of why the man and the woman were exiled from the Garden of Eden. Because the man and woman did not take responsibility for doing wrong and blaming someone or something else for what they did wrong. So when the Democrats, so please remember this, when you hear the Democrats and liberals blaming Trump, okay, for something that was definitely not Trump's fault. Okay, remember how important it is that we all take responsibility for our actions. And when Congress fails to come up with legislation to address the issues, the problems that we have, like at the border, and they fail to do it, and then blame Trump when the conditions become insurmountable. Okay? And mainstream media, that's CNN and MSNBC, excuse me, they have liability also. They have to take responsibility for what they do and say, you know what, I was wrong. I was wrong. I shouldn't have done it. I'll do better. And that's what Jews go through during Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, the holidays. That every year we look back at the previous year and we take into account all the moral failings, all the sins, all the moral bullseye that we failed to hit. And we say, we acknowledge them by the Kol Nidre, we acknowledge them, we feel remorse, and we commit ourselves to do better. So, we acknowledge we do wrong. And we feel remorse for doing wrong. And we're committed to do better. And say, okay, I was wrong, I'll never do that again. And I'm committed not to do that again. And that's what everybody should do. Is take responsibility for the wrongs that we do. And never, ever, ever blame someone or something else for wrongs I do. I take responsibility for my actions, for my, well, scared there for a minute. Okay. I take responsibility for all the wrongs I did. I take responsibility for all the moral failings that I committed. And I never blame someone else for something I did wrong. And when Congress fails to act to help fix the problems in this country, it's Congress's fault, because they had the reins, they had control, and it's their actions or inactions is where the blame is. So don't piss on my leg and say it's raining. Okay? You have to take responsibility for your actions or inactions. So when you in Congress failed to work and put together legislation that could become law and fix a problem, don't blame the consequences of your inactions on Trump, because you in Congress had control. AOC has control over fixing a problem. And when AOC saw conditions down there and said, I can't wait to get back to Washington and put together something that's going to fix this. No, she didn't. All she did was complain. Oh my God, the conditions down there, this is outrageous, blah, 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 blah. Now that I'm back in Congress, let's talk about the Green New Deal. Let's just bitch and complain, blah, 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 blah. Aren't you going to do something about what you saw down there? But no. No, why should I? Hey, I can complain. That's all I'm going to do, because I don't want to work. I don't want to create any laws. I don't want to come up with any ideas that fix this.
Okay. How are you feeling today, David? Good.
Hey,
Hi, James.
how are
How
you?
are you?
Okay, how are you?
I'm Good, thank you.
Thanks. So, please try to remember that. Anytime and every time you hear a member of Congress or you hear a Democrat blaming Trump for anything, Trump will take responsibility for when he does wrong. And he did during the campaign when they point out to him that 10-year-old tape. And he got in front of America and he apologized. He said, I've done a lot of things that was wrong. And I regret some of the things that I said 10 years ago. And I apologize. But I was a different person then than I am now. So, I said it. I was wrong in saying it. And I no longer endorse that attitude. That's how to be a mensch. That's how to be a responsible human being. Is to accept wrongs you did. Acknowledge them. Feel remorse about it. And commitment not to do it again. I said, you know what? I was wrong. Man, I was so wrong. I am so sorry. I'll never do that again. I will make sure, I'll do my best not to do that again. Now that you made me aware of this, now I'll be more aware of when I do it. So if it happens again and I catch myself and I find myself doing that, I'll catch it, I'll recognize it and catch it and stop it. That's how you take care of this. That's how you redeem yourself. This is how you atone for your sins. And guess what? You'll be a better person for it. You'll be a better person for it. I made many mistakes in my life with many, many regrets. So, all my bad decisions. And you know what? I have nobody to blame but myself. And many times I beat myself over the head over bad decisions I make. But I walk away from the experience wiser. And I says, you know what? Now I know. I really screwed myself up, or I really did this wrong. I'm so sorry. Thank you for bringing it to my attention. I'm so sorry. I wasn't aware I was doing it. It's what happened when I was with my last girlfriend in the store, and I was being rude to a customer. And I wasn't aware of it. And she took me aside. She said, you know, you were very rude to that woman. I said, what one? She said, that one. I said, I was? She said, yeah, you were. And I went all over the store. And I wasn't going to continue shopping until I found her. And I looked up and down the aisles. And I finally found her. And I went to her and I said, ma'am, I was very rude to you back there. I want you to know I wasn't aware that I was rude, but I acknowledged that I was rude, and I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. That's not me. And I'm so sorry that I was rude to you. Please forgive me. And you know what? She was very impressed. Oh, God, I got to experience bees or wasps or something. She said, thank you. I'm impressed that you sought me out to apologize. I said, yeah, because I did wrong, and I want to make it right. This is how you do it. You take responsibility for when you do wrong. And that includes lying, any moral failings, whatever it is. You take responsibility for your own actions. You acknowledge them, you feel remorse by your actions, and you make a determination not to do it again. Now that I'm aware of this, now I really am so sorry. I'll make damn sure I don't make that same mistake again. I'll make damn sure I do things differently. That's how you go about it. You only blame yourself. And you can point out if someone else is at fault, They may not be aware of it. So instead of bitching over here about it, about him, you go to that person. You go directly to that person. And you say, I noticed this about you. You may not be aware of it, but this is how you were. They may not be aware of it. And they may appreciate you for calling it to their attention. But you don't go bad-mouthing somebody or making up stories about other people. Because guess what? That doesn't help the situation get resolved. It's going to keep going and going and going. It's like this. Okay. There's a verse in the Tanakh, in the Hebrew Bible, that says, you never put a stumbling block before the blind. You never do that. And I took that verse to heart. That you never put a stumbling block before the blind. You never curse the deaf, and you never put a stumbling block before the blind. When I was at another facility, and I was sitting in the hallway near the phone, they waxed the floor. So the floor was kind of slippery. And two people were getting out of the elevator. And as soon as they got out of the elevator, I called out to them. I said, be careful, they waxed the floor. Because they didn't have enough time to put a wet floor on the floor. So, being a responsible person that I am, and always making sure I do not put a stumbling block before the blind. Because I had knowledge that the floor was slippery. I knew the floor was slippery. And I would never intentionally, by my inaction, to let somebody slip and hurt themselves. Because that is putting a stumbling block before the blind. Because even though I did not wax the floor, I knew the floor was waxed. I knew the floor was slippery. So even though I personally and physically did not wax the floor myself, I knew the floor was slippery. So if I didn't say something, then it's as if I myself waxed the floor and made the floor slippery. So I told those people coming out of the elevator, be careful, the floor is slippery. And they stopped. And they looked. And they saw it was slippery. And then they were able to walk carefully. And they thanked me for that. They said, thank you so much for telling us. Because they didn't know. They didn't know they were just coming out of the elevator. But I knew. I knew. So even though I did not personally wax the floor, because my knowledge, I knew the floor was slippery. So therefore, by not saying something, it is as if I waxed the floor and didn't say something. So that's why you take responsibility in the community in which we live. And that is what the main thing about Jewish teaching is it is important how we behave and treat others. Because it is the community that is important. It's how we treat others with respect and dignity. Okay? And because we are not alone in this world. We live with other people. And we have to respect everybody. I may not agree with you, but damn it, I'm going to show you the same amount of respect that I expect others to give me. Because of the community we live in. We live in a community with other people. And so every community is a family. You wouldn't treat a member of your family this way, would you? So everybody that we interact with is part of one family, the American family. We're all each other's brothers and sisters, mothers, fathers, and children. We're all one big family. And that's how we should behave. So, on that note, that pretty much covers everything I wanted to say. And thanks for watching. Thanks for listening in. I'll see you later. Okay, take care, everybody. Let's make a friend today. Okay. See you later. See you soon. Take care. Bye.